When you ask people about the PMP exam and what they find most difficult, those who have been down the road, they'll tell you it's a lot of the formulas, it's a lot of the content surrounding scope and schedule and risk, maybe even quality and things such as that. And the murmurings from these students is valid because these are very bulky chapters. These chapters are very significant, they're very bulky, and they take a lot of time to get through. Now, there are some students who go for boot camps hoping that they're going to be able to cover the enormity of these things. They hope they're going to be able to cover the enormity of schedule and scope and cost and all that. But the sad reality is a lot of students come away from boot camps not understanding this stuff as they should, majorly because it's hard and it takes a long time to cover in detail. For example, one of the boot camps that I did, we spent going to 4 hours covering one of these chapters. I believe it was schedule. 4 hours. There was a boot camp I trained out in Scotland. Actually, it was a basic project management training class, not even a boot camp for the PMP, but it was a 5-day kind of boot camp styled class, but not really a boot camp for the PMP exam. It took us going to 7 hours to get done with integration. Can you believe that? 7 hours. So realizing that there was a demand for this, for students to be able to cover the content in greater detail than many of the boot camps, I put together a number of classes early in this year, kind of like a test group to see how well people will do, how they would come away with the information that they needed to pass the exam if they came through some tech camps. So I call them PMP exam tech camps, and we held 2 or 3 at the beginning of the year, like March, April, May. I believe we held one in June too, May, June. But the summary is this: of the students that went through the boot camp, a huge number of them got the confidence to take the actual exam, took the PMP exam. Huge number of them passed the PMP exam. And you've heard me talk about Krishnan, you've heard me mention Dura, you've heard me mention a number of folks, many, many people in that group that came for similar camps. Dustin was in a similar camp. Willanda was in a similar camp. Many of them were on camps like this. So the PMP exam tech camp is back again. It's going to be happening next week, the 26th of August. It is for those who mean business, beating up the PMBOK guide before the exam tries to beat you. We're going to be covering the chapters known as the triple constraint. The triple constraint chapters are going to be covered in great detail. We're talking about schedule, we're talking about cost, we're talking about scope. The baddies. Lots of us know them as the baddies because they just torment people. People can't sleep. Poor students telling me they've seen earned value formulas running after them in their sleep. It's serious. That's not good. We need to get these things under control so people can sleep sensibly and live a decent life, get certified and move on. So on Monday, we're starting off with the boot camp. We call it a tech camp, so I'll use the word tech camp. We start with the tech camp Monday. We're meeting at 8:30 in the evening Eastern. And the reason why I beg your pardon, we're starting at 8 o'clock to 10:30 Eastern. In fact, you know what? Let me just show you where you can get the information because you might be wondering, all right, where do I sign up? That is typically what people ask. So I'll show you where you can sign up. This is going to be for a total of 12 and a half hours. So if you go to the pmsucceed.com site, and you look in the menu, you see the Tech Camp is the first thing in the menu there. Or you can just go to tinyurl.com/PMP Tech Camp 2, the number 2. It'll take you here. And here's all the information about the Tech Camp. It's at 8 Eastern to 10:30 p.m. Eastern. And the reason why we start at 8 Eastern is we have students on the West Coast who want to join. And whenever we start these East Coast classes early, the poor folks on Pacific time, they're like, Phil, I'm barely closing work. So we move this to a time that both East and West can attend. Those who are on the West Coast would be getting done with work. They can jump into it. Those who are on the East Coast might have even taken a nap, had dinner, done whatever they do with family, and then focus for 2.5 hours. That's all I ask of you, 2.5 hours. Come with your A game. Those of you who have been struggling with the different chapters that I'm showing here, scope, schedule, cost, you need to be there. Now, in addition to these 3, we have also included risk and quality, because we could say quintuple constraint if we want to get all specific with these 5, but these are the notorious ones. The training that you're going to get is not only going to help you dominate the PMP exam, it is also going to help you in your real world project management, so that you could feel a lot more confident than you might be right now, you see. So just go down, click on the button, sign up. We've got a ridiculous deal going on right now. I often tell people these are very custom boot camps. You don't get a lot of boot camps where it is so tailored to the needs of the student that they just attack the triple constraints. I haven't heard of such a boot camp. Have you? If you have, drop me a comment below. I want to know which one. Which boot camp focuses on just schedule, cost, scope, risk, quality? Drop a note below, because I'm telling you, I ain't seen none. That's why you need to sign up for this one. Think about it. This boot camp saves you a boatload of value. And I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about time. Because to get this level of training, first of all, it would be very difficult, because there are very few trainers that are as detailed and are as thorough and know the content, not by way of reading it in a book, but by way of using it, holding earned value in your bare hands and manipulating it. All of these things I teach, I have used all of these things on projects. EAC, that was the order of the day. VAC, BAC. We didn't use much TCPI, but it was there in the background if we needed it. If management needed to challenge you, they'd check your TCPI. That kind of stuff. SPI, CPI, CVSV. I mean, I wrote a book called Earned Value Management Basics. I drank the Kool-Aid so much on earned value, I had to write a book on it. Wrote that book, and after doing that, I decided I would just do a 3-hour nothing but earned value curriculum. It's there on the Praizion site. But I bring all of that knowledge of earned value and I try to put it into a pretty package. I try to encapsulate it so that you don't have to do the heavy lifting. See? So that's really what you're going to be getting. You're going to be getting some no-nonsense education in these things. What about scope? Again, have you ever used a WBS before? Yes. Have you ever used a WBS in text-based form? Nothing but text-based form? Yeah? Okay. Have you ever used a WBS on a blue screen? That's right. Antiquated. I've been around for a while doing this stuff. I've used a WBS on a blue screen. legacy systems back in the day. I've used the WBS on a more recent GUI from our friends at Critical Tools. I used that to run a project in a well-known airline company. So the stuff I'm teaching you is what I've eaten, drank, breathed, just used at my disposal. Total mastery of these things on the job. And I'm talking about Fortune 500s, well-known companies use these things. I'm not just teaching you what the PMI wrote in the book. You know, in fact, the source that I learned a lot of this stuff from, in addition to work, is from the government. Defense Acquisition University, if you care to look it up, back in those days, I could take a lot of free courses. So before I actually started practicing earned value, I was studying it. Why am I telling you all this stuff? I'm telling you all of this because you need to compare apples to apples. Don't go for some course where all people have done is crammed the formulas in here and are regurgitating. They don't have the live experience to back it up. Many do not. And that's why if I were you, I would most certainly come aboard one of these tech camps that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be doing 2 tech camps. The first tech camp, I'm going to hone in on the triple constraint: schedule, cost, scope, risk, quality, in that order. You see, I want to get you when you're fresh. I want to get you when you're fresh. So I'm not going to do it in order because risk is risky. All of those terms, we're going to cover all of those little abstract terms that you find in risk. Those concepts that you're like, what does that mean? What does manageability mean? What does propinquity mean? What does controllability mean? What does detectability mean? We're going to strip it all down. We're going to uncover what's going on. We're going to take a look at these matrices that you see in the PMBOK guide, all of them, any of them that come our way. We're going to take a look at those bubble charts that my buddy, the risk doctor, threw in there. We're going to unravel the entire gamut of schedule, cost, scope, quality, risk, everything. We're going to make a potpourri. We're going to make a goulash. By the time we're done, you will be full of the guide and you'll have better command of the formulas, better command of the content. Well, why don't I just jump into it right now and show you some of the things that I am going to be covering, because you might wonder, what is he going on about? Okay. So here's the syllabus for the tech camp. So on day 1, we start off with scope. First of all, I'll dunk you into the technicalities of the data flows, how the different processes of scope interconnect. Then we'll go into scope baseline technicalities. We'll talk about the WBS. We'll talk about WBS components. We're going to zero into terms like code of accounts, root nodes, control accounts. I'm going to give you vivid examples of how all this comes together: planning packages, work packages. I'm going to answer questions that you have about scope. I'm going to show you how we can use our WBS to map back to our earned value management system and things such as that. That will be helpful for you to be aware of before your exam. So that's going to be day 1. Remember, it's 2.5 hours, and I can tell you 2.5 hours goes pretty quick when we're covering stuff like this in great detail. All right. The next day, we're going to be working on schedule management. So I'm first of all going to show you the technicalities for schedule before jumping into a scenario in MS Project so that you can actually get more familiar with the real world application of all this stuff that's in the book. When you can link real worlds to PMBOK, then you're talking. So we're going to do that. Then we're going to take a look at the network diagrams you love very much. We're going to take a look at critical path analysis. We're going to do all the usual forward passes, backward passes using the 0 method. You do know that the 1 method is there as well, but I don't teach the 1 method because I found students to find it just too laborious. So we're going to be looking at the one method and how to use it to solve these problems. We'll talk about leads and lags, lead time and lag time, show you some examples as well in the software. Slack and float, we'll talk about those. So Slack and float are interchangeable, you do know. We'll talk about free float, total float, project float. And then we'll talk about schedule compression, crashing and fast tracking, and anything else you care to know. You know, we'll talk about resource optimization and the usual stuff. The stuff that makes people scratch their heads and wonder, how do I know it's smoothing versus leveling, and all that stuff. Day 3, we'll be moving into cost. I'll show you the technicalities as usual. Then we'll go into EVA. We'll cover all of these formulas that you see on the screen, all of these concepts, PV, EVAC, BAC, SPI, CPI, CVSV, EACs, ETCs, VAC, TCPI, and earned value graphs. Earned value graphs are becoming more and more prominent in these questions that people write. So you can only guess that something may have permeated through the grapevine, because everyone's saying earned value graphs. I'll teach you the earned value graphs as well. Shortcuts, tips, and tricks. Day 4, I told you I wanted to get you when you're fresh. So we're going into risk on day 4, not day 5. We leave quality, which is a little bit milder, just a little bit milder. We leave that for Friday. Thursday, we go into risk to identify the different relationships between the processes. But more than anything else, we want to look at those 5 things, the 5 approaches to negative, the 5 approaches to positive. We're going to get all that stuff down. All those strange terms that you see under assessment of other risk parameters, we're going to go into all that stuff really well. Risk identification, pre and post planning, qualitative risk analysis, a pragmatic example will be given. We'll do probability and impact assessments. We'll talk about assessment of other risk parameters, decision tree analysis, which is in the world of perform quantitative risk analysis. And then we'll also cover EMV. We'll take a look at that example, the got in the PMBOK guide. We'll make sure you guys are polished and good to go on all this stuff. And then on the final day, we'll talk about quality. What is quality? Fitness for use, conformance to requirements, customer satisfaction. We're going to be talking about all this stuff, COQ, CBA, scatter diagrams, matrix-based charts, fishbone diagrams, histograms, Paretos, control charts, and the rule of 7, UCL, LCL, all that babble. We are going to be breaking it down so that you've got mastery of the content. If you listen to my story about my PMP exam, when I narrated it yesterday, you'll remember I told you it's a head game. You got to be ahead of the curve, ahead of the exam. You got to dominate the exam. All this stuff I'm going to show you is going to help you dominate the exam. All right. And that's how we're rolling with Tech Camp, PMP exam Tech Camp. If you want to sign up, go to pmsucceed.com, look for Tech Camp in the menu, probably the first menu item, click on it, sign up, okay? I hope this explains the Tech Camp. If you got any questions about it, feel free to drop them in the comments. But I look forward to seeing you, and I look forward to many of you getting certified. This is the big run-up to December 16th. You know what that's all about. December 16th? Wow. Some of you need to be on this pronto so that we can just get this monkey off our back and move swiftly past the 16th of December without having to stall taking the exam when everyone is running to the center. Now's the time to prepare. Now's the time to motivate yourself. I challenge you, hit that red